Hi, I'm Bob McLean. Thanks for checking out my cybersecurity channel. In this, my second video on SolarWinds, there's still a lot of ground to cover. In the first video, you may recall that I talked about passwords, service passwords, and CISA almost calling out the use of very simplistic, guessable passwords because the adversary apparently guessed several service passwords to get privileged access and elevate privileges for other accounts and proceed to infect the SolarWinds build server. In this video, there are some other issues that relate. There have been, it's now months later, there have been congressional hearings, formal attribution, the famous password or infamous password, and I hope to get to all of them in one concise video, but it may stretch into two. So let me get right into it. First, to the point of this being a widespread espionage campaign, I want to take you through a quick timeline of how the breach was discovered, because we now know several things, and especially from some testimony from the CEO of FireEye, we have a clearer picture. In the DC, Washington, DC, Virginia area, there is a cybersecurity incident response firm, or a cybersecurity firm that does incident response named Velexity. Velexity, at some point, I believe in 2019, had picked up a new customer, had signed a new client, which was a Washington, D.C. based think tank. So think policymakers and influential people. They suspected they had a breach, and they in fact did. Velexity documented that they found backdoors configured, they found hacking tools, vulnerability scanning tools that had been downloaded years prior. So they eradicated all of the malware from that network. At some point later, they were called back for another suspected breach. And it was a Microsoft Exchange Control Panel vulnerability that was exploited that had let attackers back into the network. They figured out quickly that it was the same attacker because the same Exchange email addresses were being monitored, and the emails were being copied and sent to the same remote URLs and the remote destinations. They eradicated the infection once again. They got called back a third time in late 2020, and at this point the compromised or the surveilled accounts were again being copied and emails sent to a remote address, the same remote addresses, and they traced the intrusion, the initial access vector, back to the SolarWinds Orion Network Management Platform. So 3 different initial access vectors, same remote command and control and data collection addresses, and obviously the same attacker. So also in late 2020, a cybersecurity research firm named FireEye discovered that they had been breached. Now, FireEye is a cybersecurity research firm that provides a lot of the same services, but they specialize in identifying malevolent actors on the internet and outing them to authorities. They have also offered penetration testing and vulnerability scanning, and they discovered that they had been breached and that their red team tools had been stolen. Now, red team tools are offensive security practice tools that do the vulnerability scanning and actually breaking into cooperative clients. But they were advanced tools, very well made, and now we're in adversarial hands. They discovered they were breached because a security analyst saw that an associate in FireEye had registered a second mobile device for multi-factor authentication. and in their due diligence called up the person and said, hey, I saw you registered another phone. Did you in fact register another phone? And the person said no. So they knew that they'd been compromised, and they applied a lot of resources to find the intruder. Traced it back to their SolarWinds Orion network management system. Comparing notes, or they went public very quickly. Velexity and FireEye figured out also very quickly that it was the same attacker, because the same command and control servers and infrastructure were the destination addresses for all of the stolen and copied data. So the attack had been going on for some time. SolarWinds was the third initial access vector in Velexity's client. So it wasn't just someone looking to exploit a supply chain. They were using every exploit that they, or every vulnerability they could find. So this hinted at a state-sponsored group. The other thing that hinted at a state-sponsored group is the Pyramid of Pain, and I have a short video on the Pyramid of Pain on the channel. Suggests that they use the same tools, tactics, and procedures. Think of a professional baseball player, like a relief pitcher going for the one pitch that always works in a pinch. They go for the tools they know how to use the best. So if they know how to exploit exchange the best, they're going to pick it apart until they find a new vulnerability and use that as their entry point. So we had an inkling that it was a state-sponsored group. In the time between the initial reports and reporting on SolarWinds and April 15th, everyone suspected it was a Russian-supported group. And in fact, on April 15th, CISA came out and formally blamed the Russian spy agency as the perpetrator. And of course, it has been denied. But we're now in the realm of sanctions. So this certainly has a wider impact than just networks. Another note on the extent of their surveillance. This is widely publicized because up to 18,000 customer companies up to 18,000 of SolarWinds customers had downloaded the updates, or had downloaded updates with malware. So there were congressional hearings. The intelligence committees in the Senate and House of Representatives covered this, forced the current and former CEOs of SolarWinds to testify. The FireEye CEO, Kevin Mandia, he also testified. And there are several other aspects that were discussed. And what I'm going to do is cut this here, because there's still a lot and I want to keep it in manageable chunks. So I hope this little bit of follow-up helps. The next video, I'm going to talk a bit about common coding or common practices of coders and the software development industry, if that's the right word. And there are some questions that we have to answer, how it relates to SolarWinds and the like. So hope this helps. Talk to you in the next video.